There's a pulse that lives beneath the surface of all things, a silent rhythm that governs the stars and whispers through the leaves. It does not hurry, it does not stall, it simply flows. And though the mind may call it chance, the soul knows its name, divine timing. You see, nothing in this life is accidental. Not the people who enter your story, not the delays that frustrate your plans, not even the heartbreaks that crack your chest open. Everything, yes, everything arrives precisely when it is meant to, not a breath sooner or later. But to trust this requires surrender, and surrender is the soul's highest act of courage. We have been taught to grasp, to plan, to strive, and push, and demand that life bends to our timelines. We have placed clocks around the necks of our dreams, imprisoned our joy inside calendars, and mistaken urgency for importance. But life doesn't follow our watches. It moves to the eternal cadence of the infinite. And so the invitation whispered in the hush between your thoughts is this: let go of the timeline, let go of the should have beens and the not yets, let go of the belief that you are late. You are not behind. You are not off track. You are simply being prepared for what is already yours, but only when you are ready to hold it without fear. You were never meant to rush healing or force love or squeeze purpose into a shape that fits your expectations. The oak tree does not curse the acorn. The river does not shame the snow. And you, beloved, you are not a mistake needing to be fixed. You are a masterpiece in the making, unfolding with the very breath of the universe. So when life delays you, pause. When doors close, breathe. When the path is unclear, trust. You are not forgotten. You are being fine-tuned. Like the tide pulled by the unseen hand of the moon, you are being drawn into your destiny by forces far wiser than your intellect. The mind will rebel. It will scream for control, beg for answers, demand outcomes. But the soul knows better. The soul has waited lifetimes for this moment. It is not impatient. It does not panic. It remembers the sacred pact you made before time began, the agreement to grow, to awaken, to evolve, even if it meant waiting. There is no such thing as wasted time. Every pause is preparation. Every detour is a divine rerouting. Every no is a redirection into something more aligned. You may not see it now. How could you? You're still in the middle of the story. But one day, you will look back and marvel at the precision of it all, the heartbreak that made space for true love, the delay that protected you from misaligned success, the stillness that allowed your soul to catch up to your body. We think faith is belief in something greater, but real faith is trust in divine timing. It is the quiet confidence that life knows what it's doing even when you don't. It is the radical choice to align with the flow instead of fighting the current. It is the humble whisper, I don't know how, but I trust. And trust, beloved, is not passive. It is powerful. It takes great strength to wait with grace, to breathe when everything in you wants to run, to stay soft when the world hardens around you, to keep showing up open, vulnerable, willing, even when the answers haven't arrived. The Tao Te Ching says, nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. The rose does not rush to bloom. The stars do not race across the sky. Why then do you think your journey should be any different? The universe is not on your schedule. You are on its. And its timing is flawless. Every soul comes with a divine appointment, not a deadline, not a rush, but a sacred unfolding. And when you stop resisting the delays, when you stop judging the in-between, you begin to feel it, that quiet knowing, that subtle reassurance, that invisible hand that has been guiding you all along. And so I ask you now, can you trust what you cannot yet see? Can you soften into the mystery? Can you rest in the waiting, knowing that the caterpillar must dissolve before it flies? Your soul already knows the answer. It has known it since before you had a name. It whispers, even now beneath your fear, everything is unfolding. You are exactly where you need to be. You are not waiting for life. Life is waiting for you to trust. To trust that the pause is purposeful. To trust that the space between your desire and its fulfillment is not punishment, but preparation. To trust that your journey is not defined by how quickly you arrive, but by how deeply you awaken along the way. There is nothing wrong with you for not being there yet. There is no shame in the slow unfolding. There is sacredness in the space between now and then. And in that sacred space, miracles are born. Because when you stop trying to control the pace, you begin to move with grace. When you stop demanding certainty, you create room for possibility. And when you finally let go of how you thought it should be, you begin to see how it's always been divinely orchestrated. Every delay, every detour, every doubt, a necessary thread in the tapestry of your awakening. So breathe, beloved. Slow down. Lay your burdens at the altar of this moment and simply trust in the timing of the universe. For there is a deeper intelligence beneath the surface of your life, not the one that calculates and analyzes, but the one that knows. It knows not in the way of facts, but in the way a tree knows how to grow upward, or the way a child instinctively turns toward light. This knowing does not explain, it reveals. It does not rush to conclusions. It gently unveils what has always been waiting for you to see. You see, the timing of the universe is not a machine. It is not cold or mechanical. It is a living, breathing consciousness orchestrating a symphony of alignments far beyond the comprehension of the ego. What feels like stagnation to the impatient mind is often grace in its most disguised form. The delays that frustrate your logic are often the very moments when your soul is being carved open to hold more light. And if you could see, even for a moment, the vast choreography of all that is being arranged for your highest good, you would fall to your knees in awe. Every missed opportunity, every broken plan, every ending you thought was unjust, all of it is part of the sacred weaving of your destiny. But the ego cannot see this. It wants the map. It wants guarantees. It clings to outcomes as if they were lifeboats. Yet the soul is not seeking direction, it is seeking depth. It is not interested in speed, it is devoted to meaning. And sometimes meaning can only be found in the dark soil of waiting. We have been conditioned to think of waiting as emptiness, as wasted breath, idle time. But waiting is not the absence of progress. It is the deepening of presence. It is in the stillness that roots grow. It is in the pause that truth emerges from beneath the noise. And it is in the patient heart that wisdom gathers, drop by sacred drop, like dew on the petals of dawn. The universe does not withhold, it prepares. It does not punish, it positions. It does not forget you. It aligns all things gently, perfectly, according to a clock that does not tick in seconds, but in soul shifts. So when you feel lost, consider this: you are not adrift. You are being led through a passage that does not yet make sense, because the destination is not a place, but a state of being. The caterpillar does not understand the cocoon. It only knows the darkness, the dissolving, the undoing of all it has known. And yet, on the other side of that surrender, wings await. The cocoon is not a prison, it is a temple, a place of sacred unmaking, so that a deeper becoming can emerge. And so it is with you. You are not falling apart, you are shedding skin. You are not failing, you are being formed. You are not behind. You are in a holy pause, a breath held in the lungs of the divine before the next exhale of becoming. There will be moments, tender, raw moments, when the silence feels unbearable. When the lack of clarity becomes a weight you think you cannot carry. In those moments, do not ask, why is this happening to me? Ask instead, what is this making of me? For you are being shaped not by force, but by refinement. Not into someone new, but into who you truly are beneath the masks you no longer need. The ego may label this waiting as weakness, but in truth, it is the fiercest kind of strength. The strength to trust without proof, to surrender without answers, to be present without knowing the outcome. This is not passivity, this is power rooted in the eternal. And when the moment comes, and it will, when the pieces click, when the fog lifts, when the door swings open, not by your effort, but by grace, you will understand. Not because someone explained it, but because you have lived it. Because the wisdom will no longer be outside of you. It will be etched into the lines of your becoming. And you will weep, not out of regret, but out of reverence. For every delay, every tear, every silent prayer that seemed unanswered, all of it was heard. All of it was held. All of it was holy. You were never alone in the waiting. You were being carried not to something, but into yourself. Because when you realize that the universe has never once been late, you begin to relax your grip on needing to understand. You begin to loosen the knots of expectation and soften into the arms of now. And oh, what a surrender that is. Not one of giving up, but of giving in to the rhythm, the order, the divine choreography that places every leaf upon its branch, every wave upon its tide. You were not born into chaos. You were born into a cosmos, a perfectly ordered dance of light and dark, ebb and flow, birth and dissolution. and your life is no exception. The seasons within you are not mistakes. They are sacred mirrors of the greater whole. Your winter of loss is as holy as your summer of joy. Your nights of doubt are as sacred as your mornings of clarity, because even the darkness serves. Even the silence sings. Even the unanswered prayers become their own kind of blessing when viewed through the eyes of surrender. You must begin to see delay not as denial, but as divine alignment. What is meant for you cannot be lost. It cannot be missed. It does not expire. You do not need to chase what is yours. You only need to become who you are, and in doing so, what is meant for you will find you by resonance, not by effort. This is the deep magic of the soul's journey. It does not compete. It does not beg. It does not perform. It simply radiates from a center that knows beyond all knowing that timing is never accidental, that what is real cannot be threatened, and what is not real will dissolve on its own. And so you learn to stop holding on to shadows and start embracing the space they leave behind. The human mind will cry out, "But what if I miss my chance?" And the soul answers back, "Beloved, you are the chance. You are not an accident wandering through time. You are time made flesh. You are not waiting for your life to begin. You are life already unfolding in perfect rhythm, even if that rhythm is still silent to your ears." If you can trust in anything, let it be this. The same intelligence that spins Saturn's rings, that births galaxies and stirs the tides, is the same intelligence that placed a desire in your heart. And if the desire is there, then so is the path. It may not be visible yet, it may not be linear, but it exists in the unseen, in the not yet, in the divine invisible. And so your task is not to force the unfolding. Your task is to be faithful to the becoming, to nurture your inner world so deeply that what you attract is not what your ego demands, but what your soul requires. Because the truth is, you are not here to manifest things. You are here to remember who you are and allow all that is aligned with that remembrance to flow to you. But first, there must be space. And this is why the universe sometimes clears your path in ways that feel cruel. It removes people, plans, jobs, and identities, not to punish you, but to prepare the sacred ground of your life, because growth cannot take root in a cluttered field. And divinity cannot be heard over the noise of grasping. You are being simplified, not reduced, but refined. Like gold in fire, like stone becoming sculpture, you are being stripped of the unnecessary so that only the essential may remain. And that essential is love. Not the sentimental kind, but the sacred force that pulses beneath all that lives. The love that created you. The love that is you. The love that requires no achievement, no validation, no applause, just your presence, your trust, your willingness to remain open, even when you don't yet understand. There will be days when the silence is loud, when the waiting feels like absence. But don't be fooled. The seed does not doubt the spring just because it sits beneath the frost. Your soul knows the warmth is coming. It always was. It always will. Just wait, not with tension, but with reverence. Can you feel that? The deep stillness, the sacred hush before the miracle. Because when you trust the timing of the universe, you stop measuring your life by clocks and calendars and start feeling it through alignment. You stop asking, "Am I there yet?" and begin to ask, "Am I here now?" And in that simple shift, the tension melts, the inner war ceases, and peace, not as a concept, but as a living presence, begins to bloom like a lotus from the still waters within you. You see, the moment you fully arrive in the now, the illusion of waiting disappears, because waiting only exists when you are somewhere other than where you are. And yet, this moment, this breath, is not a stepping stone to something greater. It is the sacred temple. It is the altar. It is the miracle you once believed lived in the future, finally revealed in the present. Even your longing is holy. Even your ache is sacred. It means you are alive and listening, attuned to the rhythm beneath the noise. But let that longing become devotion, not desperation. Let it pull you deeper into presence, not further into illusion. Let it remind you that what you are seeking is not coming from out there, it is rising from within. You have been taught that your worth is measured by movement, that only the productive are valuable, that only the fast are rewarded. But what if I told you the most powerful transformations happen in stillness? That the greatest breakthroughs often arrive in the quietest seasons. The caterpillar does not force its wings to grow. The flower does not strain toward the sunday. They simply allow. They allow the unfolding. They trust the process. And so must you. When you stop trying to be somewhere else, further along, more accomplished, more certain, you begin to see the perfection of where you are. Even your confusion is not a mistake. It is a message. It says, slow down, go deeper. There is something here for you still. Something that can only be discovered when you stop racing ahead and start listening. The soul does not rush, it ripens. And so the question is not, what must I do to make it happen, but rather, who must I become to hold it when it does? Because timing is not just about the outer world aligning, it's about your inner world becoming ready to receive. A door opened too soon cannot be walked through with grace. A blessing grasped and fear becomes a burden. But when you are aligned, truly aligned with the vibration of what you seek, then it comes not as a rescue, but as a reflection. This is the deeper teaching. Your life is always reflecting your readiness. And readiness is not something you manufacture, it is something you embody. It is the byproduct of your inner stillness, your quiet trust, your unwavering yes to the slow and sacred work of awakening. So if the thing you long for hasn't yet arrived, don't curse the delay. Bless it, thank it. Because it means you are still becoming the version of yourself who can receive without clinging, who can hold without fear, who can experience the fullness without trying to possess it. And in this space between the longing and the arrival, between the prayer and its manifestation, there is you. Pure, present, surrendered you. The you who is enough even without the outcome. The you who is already whole, even without the answer. The you who is no longer waiting, but listening. And oh, what a shift that island. You begin to notice beauty where you once saw lack. You begin to see signs where you once saw silence. You begin to feel supported, not because everything is perfect, but because you are finally aligned with the perfection of now. And that alignment, that surrender, that deep yes to what is, that is what changes everything. And what if I told you that the timing of your life is not just precise but poetic, that every delay is not just necessary but meaningful, that the space between where you are and where you long to be is not empty, it is holy, it is not a void but a womb, nurturing the fullness of what is to come? This is not the kind of message the world rushes to embrace, because the world is loud, it wants results, it wants acceleration, it screams that faster is better and that waiting is weakness. But the soul, oh the soul, it speaks and whispers. It knows that the finest wine ages in stillness, that stars are not born with a roar, but in silence, in darkness, in time. You are not being punished, you are being seasoned. You are not being ignored, you are being invited to become more intimate with your own presence. To discover that you are not a character waiting for a plot twist, but the light in which the entire story unfolds. And in that light, you begin to see clearly that all this time, the universe was not testing you, it was tuning you like a sacred instrument, being prepared for its song. And the pauses were not mistakes. They were rest deliberate, needed sacred rest between the notes that give the music its meaning. For what is a symphony without silence? What is a sunrise without the long hush of night? What is fulfillment without the fullness of time to deepen the well within you? We forget so easily that becoming is not a race, that our path is not a competition. We compare, we measure, we fear we are behind. But behind what? Behind whom? The soul does not operate on linear time. It does not fear being late. It knows only rhythm. It trusts the inner pace, the divine pulse that calls you to bloom not a second too soon. And so when you feel the ache of delay, I urge you, do not rush to fill the ache. Let it stay. Let it stretch you. Let it teach you how to hold emptiness without panic. Let it teach you the art of receptivity, the strength of soft readiness. Because one day what now feels like space will be filled with a grace so profound, so perfectly fitted to the shape of your surrender that you will thank the wait for every moment it took. The flower does not resent the seasons. It knows nothing is lost in waiting. Nothing is wasted in becoming, and nothing, absolutely nothing, can stop what is divinely timed for you. There is a peace, beloved, that comes not from getting what you want, but from knowing that what is meant for you is already finding its way, because you no longer resist the unfolding. You meet each moment not with force, but with faith, not with urgency, but with awe. And when you live like this, deeply attuned, deeply trusting, your energy changes. You become magnetic, not because you chase, but because you resonate. You do not attract what you want through pressure, you attract what you are through presence. This is not a life strategy. This is a soul remembering. You did not come here to hurry through the sacred. You came here to be shaped by it, to let life work through you like wind through trees, like rivers carving valleys, like fire refining gold. So be the valley, be the tree, be the gold. Let the timing be what it island. You have not been forgotten. You have been chosen. And the timing of your life is divine. There comes a moment on the soul's journey, not loud, not dramatic, when the heart no longer demands to be rescued from its waiting, when the ache no longer cries out for escape but simply breathes. In that moment, you do not give up, you give in. And giving in is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is a soul returning to its original knowing that life unfolds not by effort, but by essence. And what is essence if not love? Not a fleeting feeling, not a momentary spark, but the eternal current that weaves through all becoming, the love that waits patiently for you to stop trying to fix the moment and begin allowing it. The love that trusts the process so fully it does not grasp, it does not chase, it simply island. When you trust in the timing of the universe, you are not abandoning your dreams. You are realigning them with grace. You are recognizing that the universe is not denying you, it is refining you. Preparing you to receive not just what you ask for, but what you're ready to carry in your wholeness. And sometimes that means being stripped of what you thought you needed. Sometimes the door doesn't open because your soul is still learning how to knock with open hands rather than clenched fists. Sometimes what leaves your life is not a loss, but a sacred subtraction, making space for something far more aligned than what your limited self could imagine. You are not meant to carry everything. You are meant to carry truth. And truth does not burden, it liberates. And so we begin to see that trust is not passive. It is the boldest kind of faith, the kind that wakes up every morning and says, even without knowing, I choose to believe that life is for me. The kind of faith that walks through uncertainty, not with answers, but with presence. You stop asking, when will it happen? And start asking, how present can I be in what is already happening? You begin to see that the magic is not in the manifestation, it's in the moments of surrender that birth it. The oak tree does not reach for the sky by force, it reaches by rooting. And so must you root into this moment, into this breath, into the deep soil of your becoming. Let the roots go down, even if the branches are not yet stretching up. Because the deeper you go in trust, the higher life can lift you in grace. This is the mystery. It is only when you release your grip that life places the gift in your hand. Only when you stop insisting that you know better, that the divine order reveals itself. And that revelation will not come with fanfare. It will come as a whisper, a quiet knowing, a tear you didn't know you needed, a sunset that stops you in your tracks, a word spoken by a stranger that opens a door in your heart you forgot existed. It will come not as a sudden miracle, but as a slow remembering. A remembering that nothing has ever been out of order. A remembering that you were never off track, just on a deeper path than your mind could map. A remembering that the pause, the delay, the waiting room of your life was not a punishment. It was a sacred womb. And what is being born in you now is not just a new season. It is a new self. A self not built on fear or proving or striving, but on stillness. Stillness that is not empty, but full. Full of wisdom, full of God, full of you. You see, trust in the timing of the universe was never about learning something new. It was about remembering what your soul already knew when it chose this life. That everything, every detour, every delay, every unanswered question was part of a divine unfolding. That the obstacles were not blocks, but blessings dressed in unfamiliar clothing. That what left you was never meant to stay, and what stayed was meant to sculpt you. You are not here to arrive. You are here to allow the sacred geometry of your becoming to unfold without resistance. To stand like the mountain, rooted and receptive as the seasons pass through you, each leaving behind a deeper strength, a quieter wisdom, a more surrendered grace. You have spent enough time doubting your path, enough time questioning the pace of your life, enough time believing that worth was something to catch up to. But what if the timing of the universe is not just trustworthy, what if it is perfect? Not perfect by human standards, not flawless in appearance, but perfect in its purpose. Perfect in how it knows what your mind does not. perfect in how it lets things fall away, not to diminish you, but to return you to presence, return you to breath, return you to the soft, sacred truth that your value was never tied to outcomes, that you are enough, even here, especially when the answer hasn't come, especially when the plan is unclear, especially when all you can do is stand still and listen. That stillness is not your punishment, it is your initiation into deeper faith, into wider love, into the vastness of your being, which was never meant to live at the mercy of timelines or expectations, but to flow like water, trusting, yielding, alive. There is a peace that comes when you no longer beg the moment to be different, when you meet life not as a judge, but as a witness. And in that witnessing, in that blessed state of acceptance, you see what was always there, that the delays were doors, that the stillness was sacred, and that life was never late. It was preparing you for a fullness too vast to be rushed. And so let the rushing end here. Let the inner war come to stillness. Let your timeline fall from your hands like autumn leaves and say, I trust. I trust the rhythm that lives beneath all things. I trust the intelligence that breathes my lungs. I trust the unfolding even when I do not understand it. And in that trust, may you walk lighter. May you stop grasping and start glowing. May you stop chasing and start receiving. May you stop doubting and start being the very presence that changes rooms without effort, being the very peace that others feel but cannot name, being the very light that does not need to search for the divine because it is the divine embodied and alive. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not forgotten. You are a living breath of the infinite, unfolding in perfect time. And as you surrender to this truth, may you finally exhale, not because everything is known, but because you've remembered that it doesn't need to be, because you are already held, already guided, already right on time. And now you are free, free to trust, free to receive, free to live in harmony with the great mystery that orchestrates it all. This is your sacred return. Welcome home. There comes a moment not always marked by trumpets or triumph, but often by a quiet ache, a subtle discontent when the soul whispers, there must be more than this. And in that sacred whisper lies the seed of awakening, not the awakening of gaining something new, but of seeing with new eyes. A shift so gentle it might be missed, and yet so profound it realigns the cosmos itself. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at begin to change, not because they morph or rearrange, but because your perception, that sacred lens of consciousness, becomes clear. The veil lifts, the illusion trembles, and what once seemed ordinary becomes miraculous. A blade of grass, once trampled under hurried feet, now becomes a miracle of divine geometry. The stranger who irritated you yesterday reveals the mirror of your own impatience. A challenge you cursed becomes the doorway through which your spirit walks free. Everything changes because you have changed, or rather you have remembered what is real. The outer world is nothing more than a canvas onto which your inner state is projected. Like a painter spilling the colors of their being across an empty space, so do you cast your beliefs, your fears, your hopes, and your truths onto life itself. And life, ever obedient, reflects it all back to you, not as punishment, not as reward, but as revelation. If you see the world as hostile, you will find proof in every glance, every word, every delay. But when your inner gaze turns toward peace, even chaos becomes your teacher. Even heartbreak becomes a holy thing. The Tao Te Ching speaks of the way that cannot be spoken, the truth that cannot be named. And yet, when your heart becomes still and your thoughts no longer demand understanding, the truth begins to speak through everything. The rustling of leaves becomes scripture. The wind becomes prophecy. The silence between words becomes your guide. Change, then, is not something that begins outside of you. It is not triggered by a new job or a new partner or a change in circumstance. True change is an inward blooming, a shift not in what you see, but in how you see. And that vision begins when you stop identifying with the voice of fear, the voice that insists you are not enough, not ready, not worthy, and begin to listen instead to the still, small whisper of your soul. The whisper that says you are already whole, that nothing outside of you can define you, limit you, or complete you. You are already the light you seek. You are already the love you chase. You are already the peace you long for. The ego resists this truth, for it survives on striving. It feeds on comparison, on drama, on control. It says, I will be happy when, and drags you through 1,000 unmet conditions. But the soul has no such requirements. It simply says, I am. And when you live from that I am, the universe responds. Not as an external force, but as a mirror to your own essence. The people you meet shift. The opportunities that eluded you appear. The timing aligns, not because the outer world changed, but because you remembered your true place within it. You see, the universe does not need to be fixed. It needs to be seen rightly. It is not your enemy, it is your echo. And every judgment you cast onto it is a reflection of a wound within you still waiting for love. Every complaint you utter is a prayer in disguise, a call for alignment. Every fear is a guidepost pointing not to danger, but to a threshold your soul is ready to cross. So when the world feels heavy, do not ask, why is this happening to me? Ask instead, what part of me is being invited to see differently? Because the moment you choose a new perspective, you step into a new world. Jesus said, let thine eye be single, and thy whole body shall be full of light. This is not about the physical eye, but the inner vision, the consciousness that beholds the sacred in all things. When that inner eye awakens, light floods every corner of your life. Not because the shadows vanish, but because you no longer fear them. You see through them. You recognize them as lessons, not punishments, as aspects of yourself you are now ready to embrace. And so the question is never, what must I change in the world, but what must I change in myself to see the world rightly? When you choose to see with love, the universe becomes love. When you choose to see with trust, life becomes trustworthy. When you choose to see with gratitude, everything, even the storm, becomes a gift. This is not magic. This is alignment. This is the sacred law of perception. What you look for, you find. What you expect, you receive. What you honor expands. And so if you feel lost, confused, unworthy, do not change your circumstances. Change your gaze. Look not through the eyes of your wounds, but through the eyes of your soul. See not with fear, but with forgiveness, with compassion, with the certainty that the divine is always present, even in the disguise of difficulty. The moment you choose to bless your life instead of curse it, your life begins to bless you in return. The moment you stop resisting what is and open your heart to what could be, the universe flows into your openness. The stars don't rush to shine, the trees don't question the seasons, and the ocean does not try to hold its waves still. So why must you strive? Why must you grip so tightly when you were made to trust? You are not a mistake. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are a sacred thread in the vast tapestry of life, and everything that has unfolded, every heartbreak, every delay, every moment of doubt has been a part of your awakening. Not one moment was wasted. Not one tear was in vain. It was all preparing you to see not just the world, but yourself more clearly. And when you see yourself clearly, without the fog of judgment, without the mask of ego, you begin to walk differently, speak differently. You begin to radiate not because you are trying to shine, but because you are no longer hiding your light. And the world feels this. It responds to this. For the universe is not fixed, it is fluid, it is not distant, it is intimate. It listens not to your words, but to your vibration. And when your vibration shifts, your reality shifts with it. So I invite you now not to strive, but to see. Not to chase, but to choose. Choose to see differently. Choose to see with the eyes of love, of wholeness, of truth. Because when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at, relationships, challenges, even your own reflection begin to change in kind. Not because the world bowed to your will, but because you bowed to the deeper truth within you. The truth that says you are enough. The truth that says all is unfolding in divine timing. The truth that says you are already free, you just haven't opened the door. The door, dear soul, is perception, and you hold the key. The key was never lost, only overlooked in the noise of wanting, striving, and forgetting. You have carried it with you through every season of doubt, every long night of questioning, every step taken with trembling faith. It is not made of metal or memory, but of awareness. And the lock it opens is not in the world, it is in your own perception. When you begin to truly see, not through the lens of what was or what should be, but through the sacred clarity of what is, you enter into holy territory. Here you find that the things you feared were not enemies, but misunderstood teachers. The people who hurt you were not punishments, but mirrors. And the pain you avoided so long was not your undoing, it was your threshold of becoming. You are not here to accumulate experiences like trophies or arrange your life into a gallery of achievements. You are here to awaken. And awakening does not always come with joy. It often arrives disguised as loss, as uncertainty, as surrender. Because it is not adding to you, it is undoing all that is not you. It strips away the layers of roles and titles, the illusion of control, the brittle identity built on how others see you, until all that remains is what is eternal, and that is love. Not a feeling, not an attachment, but the boundless essence of who you are when the masks fall away and the silence becomes your truest companion. You begin to see the divine not as something to reach for, but as something that breathes through you. Not as a far-off deity, but as the breath in your lungs, the rhythm in your chest, the quiet knowing in your bones. You are not walking toward God, you are walking as God. Not in arrogance, but in humble awe of the presence that lives through you, as you, for you. And from this remembrance, compassion flows effortlessly. You stop seeing others as obstacles or threats. You stop needing to be right, to win, to defend your ground. You begin to see that every soul is on their own sacred path, some walking with eyes open, some still sleeping, some stumbling, all searching for the same light that you are rediscovering now. It is no longer about who is ahead or behind. It is no longer about comparison, which is the language of ego. It is about communion, sharing the same sky, the same source, the same sacred breath. And so, when a stranger crosses your path, you don't ask, "What do they want from me?" You ask, "What is the lesson here? What is the love trying to express itself through this moment?" Even if the moment is uncomfortable, especially then, because discomfort is not a punishment, it is a sacred invitation to rise. Rise above the instinct to retreat. Rise above the old reaction. Rise into the presence of your truest self, which never needs to prove, never needs to grasp, never needs to shout to be known. The self that simply is whole, present, aware. The self that knows the universe is not happening to you, but through you. You are not separate from the unfolding, you are its pulse. You are not lost in the current, you are the current. And the more you trust this, the more life becomes a sacred rhythm rather than a chaotic noise. You no longer pray to be delivered from your circumstances, you begin to thank them, because you see now that every closed door redirected you toward a more sacred path. Every delay softened your ego. Every disappointment hollowed out the space where truth could take root. This is the holy paradox. What you once resented, you now revere, because your perception has changed, your vision has expanded, and the universe has shifted with it, because the universe reflects your state of being. Nothing has to change for everything to change, only your way of seeing. So breathe deeply, not to calm yourself, but to remember yourself. Each breath is a bridge back to the now. Each breath is a yes to this moment as it island. No longer fighting, no longer rushing, no longer searching, just seeing, just allowing, just being. And in this being, you become a beacon not by effort, but by essence. You do not need to light the path for others. You need only walk yours with such integrity, such presence, such quiet radiance, that others remember their own light simply by being near you. This is how the universe changes, not with force, but with truth. Not with noise, but with stillness. Not with conquest, but with remembrance. And you are the remembering. You are the remembering of a world that once knew only peace. A soul that has wandered long through the illusion of separation and now stands at the edge of a great return. Return not to a place, but to a knowing. A knowing that was never lost, only buried beneath the rubble of roles and routines, beneath the need to be more, to do more, to earn what was always yours. This is the quiet revolution of consciousness. Not a battle, not a crusade, but a soft dissolving of illusions. It is the moment when you look upon the world not with eyes clouded by fear, but with the clear gaze of love, and in that gaze, mountains move. In that gaze, wounds begin to close, not because time has passed, but because truth has arrived. Do you see it now? That you were never broken, that your cracks were not flaws, but fault lines through which the light could enter? That what you called your mistakes were simply the soul's way of learning how to walk again, not toward worth, but within it. You were never meant to be perfect. You were meant to be present. And presence is the language of the divine. The universe doesn't require you to have it all figured out. It only asks you to be here fully, openly, honestly, to feel deeply, to see clearly, to choose wisely. And wisdom does not come from knowing everything, it comes from seeing with the heart. And when you begin to see with your heart, you stop needing the approval of the world. You stop seeking the applause of the temporary. You stop trading your truth for comfort because you realize that real comfort comes from living aligned with your inner compass. The compass that always points you back to peace, even when the road is steep. That always draws you toward truth, even when truth dismantles everything false you've built. That always says this way. Even when the ego says, but I don't understand. You don't need to understand, you only need to trust. Understanding is a function of the mind. Trust is a function of the soul. And your soul remembers what your mind forgot, that everything is unfolding exactly as it must for you to awaken. Not to a better version of yourself, but to the eternal version that never left. The version that existed before you were named, before you were wounded, before you began to believe you were something to fix. And now you return. Return to simplicity, to stillness, to the sacred space where nothing is missing and everything is possible. Return to the deep inner silence that holds all answers, not in words, but in presence, because truth doesn't shout, it waits. And now you are ready to hear it. The universe in its infinite compassion has been waiting too, not impatiently, not with judgment, but with open arms and open sky, ready to reflect back to you the light you've always carried. There is nothing to earn. There is nothing to prove. There is only the great allowing, the surrender of resistance, the exhale after lifetimes of holding your breath. And when you exhale, the world exhales with you. Suddenly the colors become brighter. The days feel softer. The people you once feared now seem familiar. Because you are no longer projecting your pain onto the canvas of life, you are painting with love. And love does not distort. It reveals. This is not the love that binds or breaks or begs. This is the love that sees and frees. The love that exists not as a possession, but as a presence. The love that asks for nothing but your willingness to see differently. And when you love in this way, everything around you changes, not because you demanded it, but because you allowed it. You became the opening. You became the shift. You became the change you once waited for. The outer world may not immediately mirror your inner transformation, but your relationship to it will. And that is the only change that matters. Because when your perception shifts from fear to faith, from ego to essence, from doubt to divine certainty, the whole universe realigns around your truth. You become untouchable not in body but in spirit. Unshaken not by controlling life, but by no longer needing to. Unstoppable not through effort, but through clarity. And clarity is the birthplace of peace. Let that peace rise in you now, not as a concept, but as a living presence. Let it fill your breath. Let it soften your eyes. Let it dissolve the armor you've worn so long you forgot it wasn't your skin. There is no battle left to fight, only love left to live. And the more you live it, the more the universe changes, not into something new, but into something true. Because the truth was always there, waiting for you to see. Waiting not impatiently, not urgently, but with the quiet confidence of eternity, the truth stood at the doorway of your awareness. It never pushed, never forced. It simply stood there, like the horizon waits for the sunrise, knowing the light will eventually come home. And now, beloved soul, the light is rising not from outside, but from within. Not because the world grew gentler, but because your vision grew deeper. You stopped asking life to change and began changing the eyes with which you see life. And in doing so, the miraculous began its subtle unfolding. This is not about chasing miracles. This is about recognizing that life itself is the miracle. The way your breath moves without instruction, the way your heart keeps rhythm while you sleep, the way the stars align above your small sacred life without needing your permission. You are woven into a cosmic symphony, and when you become still enough, you can hear the melody again. It was never gone. You were only listening to noise that wasn't yours. And now, you are remembering the sound of your own being, the silent music of existence, the hum of something vast and loving and infinitely intelligent that chose to express itself as you. You do not need to understand it fully. You only need to allow it. The way a tree does not analyze the rain, it simply receives. The way the ocean does not question the moon, it simply responds. You too are made for this harmony. And when you return to it, the universe no longer feels like a stranger. It becomes your reflection. Your life, with all its details and dramas, becomes not a problem to solve, but a canvas to paint upon. And your brush is your awareness. Your color is your intention. Your signature is the love you pour into every sacred moment. When you change the way you look at things, the universe changes not because you've manipulated its form, but because you've aligned with its truth. The truth that says you are not here to suffer. You are here to remember joy. Not the fleeting thrill of circumstance, but the deep, abiding joy of connection. Connection to your soul, to others, to the divine in all things. The clouds may still gather, the winds may still howl, but you no longer tremble. Because you have become the sky. The weather of life passes through you, but does not define you. You are the vastness behind it all. In this space, clarity arises, not the clarity that needs proof, but the clarity that knows without needing to explain. You begin to live guided by intuition, not instruction, led by love, not fear, grounded in peace, not performance. And the world notices, not because you announce it, but because your presence has changed. You have become a sanctuary in motion, a silent lighthouse, a living reminder that it is possible to live in truth, to love without condition, to walk the earth without losing the sky within you. This is your power, not the power of control, but the power of alignment. Not the power to make things happen, but to let things unfold through you in divine timing and perfect peace. You are not lost, you are arriving. You are not broken, you are blooming. You are not empty, you are full of forgotten light. And as you remember this moment by sacred moment, the universe leans closer, breathes easier, smiles wider. Because one more soul has returned to their vision. One more pair of eyes sees not with judgment, but with wonder. One more heart beats not in fear, but in fullness. And in that fullness, the world is healed not all at once, not in fire and thunder, but in the soft, steady rhythm of presence. You are that presence. Be it. Be it not someday, not when it's safe, not when all the questions have answers, but now, in this breath, in this heartbeat, in this holy moment that asks for nothing but your presence. You do not need more time. You do not need more preparation. You need only the courage to stop hiding behind your thoughts and step into the radiance of your being. The thoughts will still come, but you will no longer bow to them. They are visitors, not rulers. Clouds, not sky. Noise, not song. And once you recognize them as such, you no longer drown in their tide. You watch them float by with compassion, even the painful ones, even the ones that whisper, "You're not enough," because you now know the truth. You are not your thoughts. You are the witness, the vast, sacred space in which they rise and fall. And in that space, there is peace, not a peace you create, but a peace you uncover. It was always there, beneath the noise, beneath the striving, beneath the ache. A peace not dependent on conditions, but born from knowing who you are before the world told you otherwise. Who you are is not a role, not a name, not a story. You are the presence that lives before thought, the awareness that holds both joy and sorrow without being either. You are the observer, the knower, the stillness behind the movement. And from that stillness, wisdom flows not as information, but as clarity, not as certainty, but as trust. Trust that you are guided. Trust that you are enough. Trust that even in your unknowing, something deeper knows. You don't need to control the unfolding. You only need to stay present to it. And presence is not passive. It is the most courageous act of all. To remain here with open hands and an undefended heart when everything in you wants to run, to fix, to grasp, that is presence. That is power. It is not about never falling again. It is about no longer pretending the fall is failure. Because now you know that even in the fall, grace is present. Even in the wound, healing is already underway. Even in the mess, the masterpiece is being formed. You stop resisting what is, not because you are weak, but because you finally see that resistance was the source of your suffering, not the circumstance itself. You see that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional, and that the option lies in how you choose to see. So you choose differently. You choose to bless rather than blame, to forgive rather than fight, to stay open rather than shut down. And in that choice, the world softens. It doesn't change because you forced it. It changes because you stop fighting it. You begin to notice the subtle miracles, the way a child laughs, unburdened by the world, the way your breath returns to you, even after grief, the way love still finds a way again and again, even through the cracks. This is what changes the universe, not your effort, but your surrender, not your striving, but your stillness, not your dominance, but your devotion to truth. And truth is always simple, always kind, always whole. It does not demand, it invites. It does not shame, it frees. It does not rush, it waits. And now that you've slowed down, now that you've remembered, now that you've begun to see, not with the eyes of fear, but with the soul's gentle vision, everything looks different. Not because the world transformed, but because you did. You have become the transformation. And so it is here, in this sacred stillness you've discovered within, that the journey folds into itself, not ending, but expanding beyond the need for a destination. You have not arrived at a place, but at a presence. And this presence, this radiant aliveness that asks nothing but your yes, is what you've been searching for all along. Not another achievement, not another identity, not another moment to prove your worth, but this soft, quiet, holy recognition that you are and always have been enough. You are no longer chasing the light because you've become the light. You are no longer seeking love because you've remembered it is your very nature. You are no longer pleading with the universe to show you a sign because your very existence has become the sign. A living, breathing answer to a question only the soul knew how to ask. This is the great reversal. The sacred turning of perception where you realize the treasure was never buried in the distance, it was hidden in plain sight, waiting to be seen through awakened eyes. Eyes that now look with compassion instead of critique, with presence instead of expectation, with reverence instead of resistance. Nothing needs to be added, nothing needs to be earned, nothing needs to be fought for. The fight is over. The performance is over. The pretending is over. And what remains is truth, pure, unshakable, ever present. The truth that you are not here to be someone else. You are here to be entirely, unapologetically yourself. The divine expression of life made manifest in this body, in this breath, in this moment. Not because you have mastered anything, but because you have surrendered everything that blocked your natural radiance. And now you walk differently. Not with the stiffness of armor, but with the grace of knowing. Now your words soften, not because you lack conviction, but because love has become your language. Now your silence deepens, because you no longer fear the quiet, you've made it your home. You begin to bless every moment, not because it is easy, but because it is sacred. Even the pain, even the confusion, even the unknown. You bless them not because they are pleasant, but because they are portals, invitations, teachers dressed in the garments of discomfort. And so you meet them all with open hands and an open heart, not needing to understand them, just willing to be with them, trusting that nothing enters your life without purpose, that everything, when seen rightly, is working for your awakening. When you changed the way you looked at things, the universe didn't just change, it remembered its beauty, its rhythm, its tenderness, its infinite reflection of the divine through the mirror of your perception. And as you walk forward now still, grounded alive, know this: you carry the entire cosmos within you. The stars move with you. The wind bends to your openness. The world heals by your presence. You are not alone and never have been. You are not lost and never were. You are not waiting to begin. You are already becoming what you've always been. And this is the final breath of forgetting and the first full inhale of truth. You are home, here, now, forever.